Let's get right into it. You're walking down an empty street at night. It's quiet, too quiet. And then you feel it, a prickly electric sensation on the back of your neck. A sudden, unshakable certainty that someone, somewhere is watching you. You whip your head around and nothing. Just a flickering streetlight and a trash can that looks vaguely like a person if you squint. You laugh it off as your imagination running wild. But what if it wasn't? What if that creepy, paranoid feeling is actually one of the oldest and most sophisticated pieces of survival software ever coded into the human brain? Turns out that tingle on your neck isn't just you being weird. It's an ancient alarm system. A ghost from our evolutionary past when being watched meant you were just seconds away from becoming something's lunch. This is the science behind why you can feel eyes on you even when you can't see them. So what is that feeling really? That sixth sense that someone is staring at you? Scientists have a delightfully clinical sounding name for it, scopaesthesia. But the explanation isn't paranormal, it's neurological. Your brain has a dedicated, hyper-specialized neural network for one job and one job only, detecting other people's gaze. It's not magic. It's just an incredibly fine-tuned piece of biological hardware. You see, your eyes don't just see what's directly in front of them. Your peripheral vision is constantly vacuuming up an immense amount of data about the world around you, most of which you never consciously notice. It picks up on subtle movements, shifts in shadow, and faint head-shaped blobs in the fuzzy borderlands of your sight. When another person turns their head even slightly in your direction, your peripheral vision catches it. Your brain, without even bothering to tell you, immediately starts processing. It analyzes the subtle geometric relationship between the person's head orientation and their body position. And here's the kicker. It's exceptionally good at spotting discrepancies. If someone's body is facing away but their head is turned towards you, alarm bells start ringing in your subconscious. This is where it gets really clever. Our brains understand the geometry of a stare. We instinctively know that if a head is turned a certain way, the eyes in that head are now pointed directly at us. Your brain does this calculation instantly and automatically, sending a little warning signal up to the conscious part of your mind that says, "Hey, you, potential threat at 4 o'clock. Look busy." This signal is what you interpret as that creepy, skin-crawling feeling. It's not a sixth sense, it's your peripheral vision and your brain's dedicated gaze processing center working together as a high-tech surveillance system you never even knew you had. It's your brain being a professional, grade paranoid android, and honestly, it's saved us for millions of years. Now, why would our brains evolve such an elaborate, energy-consuming system just to tell if someone is looking at us? Because, for the vast majority of human history, a sustained, direct stare from another creature meant only one thing: you were prey. In the wild, chaz isn't a form of communication. It's the opening act of an attack. Think about it from an animal's perspective. Prey animals, like deer or rabbits, don't just casually make eye contact. They are constantly scanning, but they rarely lock eyes. Predators, on the other hand, do. A lion doesn't glance at a gazelle. It fixes its gaze, locking onto its target. That direct stare is the final confirmation of intent. It's the last signal the prey gets before the chase begins. Every fiber of a prey animal's being is wired to recognize and react to that specific signal with immediate, unthinking terror. Flight, fight, or, most often, freeze. We, Homo sapiens, spent a very long time on the menu. Before we were the apex predators with our fancy tools and coordinated hunting parties, we were just squishy, slow-moving primates trying not to get eaten by saber-toothed cats, giant bears, and enormous birds of prey. Our ancestors who had a slightly more sensitive, something is staring at me system were the ones who got a half-second head start. And in the brutal calculus of survival, a half-second is the difference between running away and becoming a fossil. That primal link between a direct stare and mortal danger is burned into our DNA. It's a reflex that predates language, art, and probably even decent posture. So when you're in a meeting and you feel your boss's eyes on you from across the table, that jolt of anxiety you feel isn't just about your quarterly report. It's your ancient, terrified monkey brain screaming, "It's a predator. It has chosen us. We're all going to die." Deep inside it, your temporal lobes, nestled in like a pair of biological security tags, are two tiny almond-shaped clusters of neurons called the amygdala. The amygdala isn't the smart part of your brain. It doesn't do calculus or appreciate poetry. It does one thing, and it does it very well. It freaks out. The amygdala is your brain's panic button, the raw, unfiltered core of your fear and threat detection response. And scientists have discovered that one of the fastest ways to make it light up like a stadium during the Super Bowl is to show it a pair of eyes looking directly at it. In numerous studies, researchers have slid people into fMRI machines and shown them a series of pictures of human faces. Some faces are looking away, off to the side, seemingly distracted. Others are staring straight out of the picture, their gaze locked directly onto the viewer. The results are startlingly consistent. When the person in the scanner sees the averted gaze, their brain activity is relatively calm. But the second a face with direct eye contact appears on the screen, the amygdala goes into overdrive. This reaction is immediate, involuntary, and happens before the conscious, thinking part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, has even had time to process what it's seeing. Your amygdala doesn't care if it's a picture. It doesn't care if it's a real person, a cartoon character, or a crudely drawn smiley face. If it detects the simple geometry of a direct stare, two dots inside a circle, it sounds the alarm. This isn't a psychological preference. It's a physiological reflex. That feeling of being watched is, on a biological level, the sensation of your amygdala screaming, threat, 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 directly into your nervous system. It's the reason a manager's stare can feel physically uncomfortable, and why catching a stranger's eye on the subway can feel like a small act of aggression. Your modern civilized brain knows you're not in danger, but your ancient, almond-sized lizard brain is already preparing for a fight to the death. So what's creepier than being watched? Being watched by something that isn't supposed to be watching you. This brings us to the unique weirdness of human eyes. Look at almost any other animal. Their eyes are often dark, uniform orbs. The colored part, the iris, blends into the pupil, and the white of the eye, the sclera, is barely visible. A dog can be looking right at you, and it can be hard to tell. But not humans. We are the opposite. We have these giant, bright white scleras surrounding our irises. This makes it incredibly, almost absurdly, easy to tell exactly where we are looking. An entire room of people can track the tiny movements of your eyes from across the space. The leading theory for this is called the cooperative eye hypothesis. The idea is that our highly visible eyes evolved not as a weapon, but as a tool for advanced teamwork. For our ancestors to succeed at complex tasks like coordinated hunting or protecting the group, they needed a way to communicate silently. They needed to be able to say, "Look over there at that woolly mammoth." With just a flick of the eyes, our white sclera turned our gaze into a public announcement, a clear pointer that our teammates could follow. It's a key piece of the hardware that allows for our advanced social cognition. But here's the terrifying downside. Because our brains are so exquisitely tuned to read these specific human eye signals, this system can be hijacked. This is a huge part of the uncanny valley effect. When we see a robot, a doll, or a CGI character with eyes that are almost human but not quite, our gaze detection system fires up. It recognizes the pattern, white sclera, colored iris, dark pupil. It sends the "I'm being watched by a human" signal. But the rest of your brain is simultaneously processing the waxy skin, the jerky movements, and the dead expression. And it's screaming, "That is not a human." The two signals clash, creating a profound sense of cognitive dissonance and revulsion. Your brain is confronted with a paradox, the eyes of a friend in the face of a monster. And the very evolutionary tool that allowed us to cooperate is the same one that makes a porcelain doll staring at you from a dark corner one of the most horrifying things imaginable. Think back to the most embarrassing moment of your teenage years. Maybe you tripped out up the stairs in front of everyone, or called a teacher "mom," or walked around for half the day with spinach in your teeth. In that moment of horror, you were probably consumed by one thought. Everyone saw that. You felt 1,000 eyes on you, burning with the heat of judgment. Well, I have good news and bad news. The bad news is that feeling was caused by your ancient predator detection system. The good news is it was almost certainly lying to you. This phenomenon is called the spotlight effect, and it's a perfect example of our survival instincts getting hopelessly tangled up with our modern egos. The classic experiment on this was conducted in 2000 by psychologist Thomas Gilovich. He took a group of college students and made them do something truly horrifying. Wear a deeply unfashionable t-shirt featuring a giant picture of Barry Manilow and then walk into a room full of their peers. After they left, he asked them to estimate what percentage of the people in the room noticed their embarrassing shirt. On average, the students were convinced that about half the room had spotted their fashion crime. Then Gilovich asked the people who were actually in the room. The reality? Only about 25% of them even remembered the shirt. The students had massively overestimated how much attention they were getting. So why does this happen? Our brain is hardwired with the assumption that we're being watched for threats. It's a background process that's always running. But our highly social, self-conscious mind intercepts that ancient signal. Instead of thinking a tiger might be watching me, it thinks the popular kids are watching me. Your brain can't easily distinguish between the existential threat of being eaten and the social threat of being judged. It just knows the feeling of being a target. So the same neural hardware that was designed to save your ancestors from a hungry leopard is now the very same hardware that makes you want to curl up and die after you accidentally wave back at someone who wasn't waving at you. We've spent this whole time talking about the feeling of being watched as a functional, even helpful, part of our brain's toolkit. It's a well-oiled machine that keeps us safe. But what happens when that machine breaks? What happens when the alarm gets stuck in the on position, screaming about a predator that isn't there? For millions of people, this isn't a thought experiment, it's a daily reality. The constant, intrusive, and often terrifying sensation of being watched and judged is a core feature of conditions like social anxiety disorder and paranoia. In these cases, the brain's threat detection system becomes pathologically overactive. It's like a smoke detector that goes off not just when there is a fire, but every time you boil water or make toast. Imagine walking into a coffee shop, and instead of just seeing a collection of strangers, your brain interprets every single person as a hostile observer. The person on their laptop isn't working. They're documenting your every move. The couple chatting in the corner isn't having a private conversation. They're whispering about you. The barista isn't just waiting to take your order. They're judging your existence. The feeling isn't vague or metaphorical. The physiological response is real. The amygdala fires, cortisol and adrenaline flood the system. The heart races, the body is preparing for a genuine threat. The brain is activating the exact same circuitry that would light up if you were face to face with a wolf. It can't tell the difference between a real predator and a distorted perception. This demonstrates just how powerful and deeply rooted this system is. Its malfunction can turn the most mundane social situations into terrifying ordeals. It's a sobering reminder that our sense of safety in the world relies on this ancient system, not just working, but also knowing when to be quiet. There's a fine line between healthy vigilance and debilitating paranoia, and our brain walks that tightrope every single day. So our brains have this incredible ancient system for detecting physical observers. It's tuned for heads, eyes, and the geometry of a body turning in our direction. But what happens when the thing watching you has no head, no eyes, and no body? What happens when the gaze is purely digital? We've all had that deeply unsettling experience. You have a brief private conversation with a friend about, say, wanting to buy a new brand of artisanal cat food. You never type it, you never search for it. And then, an hour later, your social media feed is plastered with ads for that exact brand. Your stomach does a little flip. It feels impossible. It feels like someone is listening. And in a way, they are. Your predator detection system is firing, but the predator is an algorithm. This is the new frontier of being watched. Our brains evolved to handle threats we can see, run from, or fight. That feeling on the back of your neck was a call to action. Whip your head around, locate the source, and react. But you can't make eye contact with a data broker. You can't run from a targeted ad. The gaze of surveillance capitalism is everywhere and nowhere at once. It's in your phone, your smart speaker, your search history. Our brain's pattern recognition software, the same software that spots a predator in the bushes, Is ours smart enough to notice the uncanny correlation between our private lives and our digital experiences? It senses a consciousness, an observing intelligence that is tracking our behavior with specific intent. It correctly identifies that we are being stalked. The problem is, the system has no protocol for this kind of stalker. The threat signal is triggered, the anxiety floods in, but there's no resolution. There's no tiger to escape, so the feeling just lingers as a low-grade, persistent hum of digital paranoia. For the first time in human history, our predator detection system is confronted with an omniscient observer it can't see. It's an evolutionary mismatch of epic proportions. And it's why that feeling of being watched is, ironically, more common and more confusing than ever before. We're being haunted by digital ghosts, and our ancient brains have no idea what to do about it. So there you have it. That creepy tingle on your neck isn't you being crazy, it's a multi-million-year-old ghost in your machine, trying its best to navigate a world it was never designed for. If you want to find out what other shenanigans your brain is up to, make sure you're subscribed for the next video.